Hello once again. Actually, I began with that last time. Need to think of a new introduction. Anyway, no matter. This is the 8th video in my series about learning the notes on one of these, DG Melodeon. We've done very well. We've covered from about there all the way up to the end. So if you've been following along and learning as we go and have managed to memorize and get a feel for everything, well, that's pretty good going already, but we just want to finish off the last bits now, which unfortunately is a bit more complicated than you might want, but it's a Melodeon, that's how they work. So you notice first I've switched back to the black one here, so this is back to a third button start. This is where the G's on the third button. So yeah, I think you understand what that means by now. So the buttons that we haven't done yet are going to be the end one on the inner row and the two end ones on the outer row. So we'll start with that one first. Okay, so what does this button do? Well, I'll show you on the keyboard. We've been using this row. This is the D major row, and the lowest note that we've used for this one so far is the D note on the push on this button here. And on the keyboard, it's this one, right down the bottom. So as you might expect, the next button down goes even further down, and that's the case. So the notes we're going to get on that follow the pattern of what we've had before. So we're going to have a C sharp, which is going to be that one, and an A, nice and low. We're getting to the bottom of where this Melodeon gets to, really. So where does that sit on here? So that D is on a push in that button, the third one on this instrument. Then the C sharp is a pull on this on here, and then finally the A is the push on that one. Notice you've got this low A, but we haven't got a B anywhere on this instrument, a low B, so we can't actually do a scale up from that, but that's just there because it fits in with the pattern of the other notes. Because if you start from the D in the middle, the next one down is an A, and so likewise here you start with that D and the next one down is an A, and it just carries on with that pattern. So that's why that's there. It's still going to be useful if you want to play with chords and add a low one in there. Just a D major with that in works. So that's that button, 2 to go. What could be simpler? Okay, so done them all except these two end buttons. Yeah, this is where things get tricky. The reason for that is because different Melodeons are set up in different ways for how they use these two buttons. There is a standard called standard accidentals, which is how this particular one is set up, but there's other instruments I've got which totally different here. So I'll do this instrument first. So this is the one which we have standard accidentals for. So what do I mean by accidentals? Back in I think the second and third videos, when we were looking at the G major scale, we observed that apart from the notes that we were playing, there were some other notes that we were ignoring, these black ones that were in between, and also even this white one, the F natural. So that's G sharp, B flat, C sharp, and E flat there. We'll use the most common terms for them, and the F. So there's 5 missing notes from the G scale. Well, it turns out that because of the C sharp is one that we use for the D scale, we've already got that covered on our instrument anyway. The C sharps are on the outer row, so we don't have to worry about this one. But the other 4 in the scope of this particular octave for the G scale are all missing. So what's happened is that because those are 4 possible notes, we can do that on 2 buttons, and that's how these 2 buttons at the top here are set up to cover those notes. So how do we do this? First of all, let's work with the top one and go from the top down, I think. So the first one we're going to come across is that F natural note, the one on the white note here that we didn't use, that one. So that one is available on this instrument, on this inner button, if I push it. And so you can probably see that if we go to the top of the G scale, there, and then I get that, so that's a G note, and then if I pull this one I get an F sharp, which is a bit lower, and then if I push this one I get the F natural, it's a bit lower still. Let's do that again. So that's what that one's for. If I was to carry on going down the scale from there, so G, F sharp, F natural, that's the one that's the white one, and then the next note there next to the F natural, because there's no black one in between, is E natural, and that's the one we pull there. And then the next note along this piano keyboard is a black one again, and that's E flat, and so you can get that E flat by pulling on this end one, and then we can follow that, if you like, with the D note that follows it. And if we want to carry on going down, the next note is a C sharp, which we've got on the outer row, so we can find that, and then we can do a C natural, and that's on the inner row. And then what's next after C? B. We can do that on either one. Let's do it on this inner row. Then the next one, B flat. Ooh, where's a B flat? That's another missing one, so it's not on either row, but that's where this last button comes in. So we've got a B flat, and we've got a B flat, I believe. Let's see if that happens if I pull it. I think that's right. And then we get an A. So that's going down even further, and the next one is an A flat, so that means if we push that one, are we going to get an A flat? We are. And then finally down to the G. So what we've done there is we've played on our keyboard here what you call a chromatic scale. That's just going down note by note, each adjacent one, semitone by semitone. So it sounds like this. Those are the notes we just done. We can only do that for 1 octave because we haven't got enough notes here to do anything more than that, but that certainly gives you some scope anyway for playing about. These are awkward. They're a long way from the notes that are nearest to them in terms of pitch, so it's kind of weird to learn how to play with them and which one's which. And sometimes when the orientation of which way round it is different. Sometimes what say the F would be a pull instead of a push, and the E flat then the other way around as well. But on this one, this is the most standard way they're set up, and that's how it works. So see if I can do it once more time without messing up. So we'll do it down from the top: G, F sharp, F, E, E flat, D. Messed up, didn't I? My clown nose. C sharp, C, B, B flat, pull on the outside one, A, pull on the inside, A flat, push there, and then finish on that G. So there's your chromatic scale again. Phew, we got through that one. The only thing is that, as I mentioned, other instruments are set up differently to this and don't even have accidentals, those missing notes at all. What they have are some even lower notes, because sometimes people prefer having even lower notes than they do the accidentals. So the next section I'll show you an example of that. Okay, right, I've switched instruments again. I've now got this again, it's a DG instrument, and this is one where you've got the two main rows and also a third half a row to give you some extra stuff. So on this particular one, it's got the accidentals that we mentioned previously. Instead of being at the end, they're in the middle there, and you've got those on 2 octaves rather than 1, which gives you a bit more scope. And then there's one other button as well, which gives some extra reversals and things. And by the way, don't worry about the pattern, it doesn't mean anything, it's just some patterns because it looks like a moustache. Anyway, moving on. What I got this one out for is that, unlike the black box, this one has got some lower notes on the last 2 buttons, so I was going to show you that. So here we go, the G is on the 3rd button on this box, like on the black one, and we've got on this one an F sharp and a D. We've already covered those before, so it's what's on the very end ones. Well, on this inner row, if I play that D, I'm pushing it, and it so happens that this instrument has got another D on the very end one, but pulling. So if you followed along, you'll realise that we actually have 3 identical D notes, because we've got that one, we've got the one on the outside row, and then you've got the one on the inside which is pull. They're all the same on 3 different buttons, so that's crazy. But sometimes having a pulled D note is very useful, and actually I've got another pulled D note in this little half row as well, which is a very useful one to have. Okay, so that's one of the notes you can get off of that end button, and the other one is the low B note. You might remember before we found this, we already had a low A note going on the outside row. Well, this is the B just above that, so that helps fill things in a little bit, and B is quite a useful note anyway, and certainly Irish tunes seem to go down to B's quite a lot, so that's a good one to have. And so what else have we got on the outside row? We already discussed the 2nd button. If we go from, well, the D on the 3rd, and the 2nd one has got a C sharp pull and an A push. There's your A. Well, this one at the end's got an A pull. So you've got that really low one on both directions on there. And then finally, the pushing note on this end one. Now, in theory, and originally this was the case on this instrument, this note should be an F sharp, and I had that for a while, and then I decided I was going to get it changed, so I changed that to a low G instead. Which is better? I've used them both ways round. It depends on what you're having to play. So this one on my instrument is a low G, so that happens sometimes. And it's up to you to how you like that. Another variation on these low notes, which I can show you perhaps on a different instrument. Let's go back to the brown one. Is to replace the pulled D note that we played on the inside one with a pulled C note. And if you combine that with the pushed G that we had previously, like on that one, and this one's got it too, what you get is it takes you a full octave in a G major scale right down to that bottom G. Ignore these two, these are accidentals. So this has got accidentals and low notes, so the low notes finish here and these are accidentals, so forget they're there for a second. And what I can do then with this is go right from a very low G and then go up to the top G. So we've got G, A, then B here, then C here, which is, and then a D, which we can do either way, We do that one there, and then we do an E, and then we could do an F sharp. Which one? Let's do that one, and then finish on a G. So that's a full low octave with that particular layout. So that's another option. There's any number of things you could use these end ones for. A lot of instruments vary, and you just have to figure it out really. I said these ones had accidentals on. Basically these are the same accidentals as was on my black box that I showed earlier. However, strangely enough, and this was just how it came, the accidentals on the inner row are an octave below what you'd expect to get on the black box, which means on this instrument I can't do that whole G chromatic scale thing that I did before, because these go outside of it and it messes it up. Does that matter? I think you just have to get used to the fact that one way or another your instrument's going to be limited, and that's how this one is, unless I get it changed one day. So I think that's about all I'm going to say about these end ones. Basically we've done what we wanted to do. We've covered all of the notes on the whole DG keyboard. So that took a while, didn't it? If you sat through all of that in one go, you deserve a medal, but I don't have a medal, so you'll have to award it yourself virtually. I could stop there, but actually maybe I should make just one more bonus little video. Maybe. Let's give it a go. See you at the next one. Cheers for now.